Hi guys, my name is Elsie. I'm the founder of Our People's Heart. And today we are speaking about men's mental health, fatherhood, success, speaking about essentially the journey from becoming boys to men. And I have a really lovely array of guests with me here today who are all really inspiring in the work that they do. I have my brother with me here as well, who again I think has just been such a massive inspiration for me in terms of like seeing a successful young man come from I think backgrounds yeah, challenging. Yeah, we had challenging backgrounds, and I think is just massive inspiration for me. And so for me, I mean, this whole idea to kind of like have this talk came about when I was at a book launch for my friend Adele Wharton. She has a book called Log and Off Club, and in one of the chapters, she spoke about how there was a young boy, an 8-year-old boy, who his mum found out that he'd recently started listening to Andrew Tate. And when the mum asked him, like, why were you listening to Andrew Tate, or how did you come across his content? The young boy said, oh, he has nice cars and he's funny. And that was essentially the entry point for how he started listening to Andrew Tate, which we know for a lot of young boys is probably like a harmful role model when it comes to misogyny, when it comes to just, I think, an array of issues that I think is affecting the way that young boys see themselves, but also the way they interact with women and the world around them. And so after kind of coming away from that book launch, I really wanted to, really made me question some of the online stereotypes and online role models that we have available to young people. And it just made me think that actually there's actually not a lot, I don't think, of like just normal men online that aren't doing super stupid stuff or like triggering stuff or saying harmful things that young men can look at and reference. And I think for me, I wanted to kind of like gather the successful men in my life, some of the successful men in my life who can hopefully offer an alternative narrative and an alternative perspective, what it means to be a young man, what it means to grow from a boy to a man, and also what it means to, what success means to them and how it's changed over the years. And so, I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. As we begin, would you guys like to go around and introduce yourself? I say introduce yourself and say one thing that's been bringing you joy or made you happy this week.
I suppose I'll go first. So my name's Lewis. I suppose outside the house, I'm known for running a company called Let's Get Active, which is a community sports organisation working with children as young as 18 months and then all the way up to adulthood. And then in the house, I'm dad and husband. So yeah, those are the two main kind of capacities that I'm known as in the world.
Right. And one thing this week that's been making you happy? One thing that you care about at the moment?
I think through my company, we've been able to support some young people to do some really big things. So quite recently, one of the young men we work with is on the verge of signing a pro contract in Italy at 15. And it's going to change his life and his family's life completely. So yeah, I think that's something that, if I think of something acute, that's bringing me a lot of joy at the moment.
That's incredible. Thank you, man. My name is Adekunle Rufai, so I'm definitely a Nigerian in the house. I think you're outnumbered, bro.
By a long shot.
So I'm the founder of a program called Smiling Boys Program. And it's a project that works with young Black boys to improve their mental health and also to kind of challenge the way that the world sees Black youth. So we run a program in London, also in the US. What is bringing me joy at this very moment? Similarly to Louis' experiences, I think we had a celebration event in LA before I came last week, and there was this grandmother that came, and she had a shirt of a dude on her chest. So her grandson did the program, and she just burst into tears while we were talking about some of the themes of the program. And she came to me and said to me, you know what? Like, his father's been in and out of jail since he was born. His mother's she got killed 3 years ago. And you won't believe how important this program was for him in this period over the last 3 years, that he couldn't stop talking about everything he was learning. And for me to see him at this culmination, which was like the celebration and almost like a graduation, she was just like, man, like his mother's thanking you. And like, it just hit me in such a way that I was like, wow, like you said, I'm not a father, but to see that this thing that was created kind of created this substitute that allowed this kid who lived in very traumatic environments to find some sort of consistency that allowed him to really have a place that was safe. Really just, every time I think about that, I'm just like, man, this is joyous. Even though like it was emotionally and sad, impacted me in that way, but it still brought me a lot of joy in the same way. So yeah.
Thank you.
Nice. I'm Jide, so I'm Elsie's big brother. Well, about 7 years older.
Yeah, 7 years.
So about me, I'm a sort of a program director, like a consultant. So I help sort of blue chip companies implement new financial systems or ERP systems into sort of a heart transplant of what they use to run their system, rip it out, put in a new system, and train the business.
Cool.
And in terms of what brings me joy this week, I think it's just like discovering stuff new about my family. So like we went to the arcade for my birthday last week or this week. And my 4-year-old Delta, we just put up a coin in Halo, the arcade. I gone, she doesn't do nothing. This girl was a shooter. And I was like, when did you learn how to shoot? So she was just like, shooting, reload, hit the button. I was like, huh? So I put in another coin. I was like, let's go. So yeah, so I was just seeing them grow, it's just something like, it's joy to like see them. Yeah, that's me.
That's
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's what's really lovely to hear is that the things that are bringing you joy are connected to the people around you and to the communities around you and to the families that you can kind of like have raising essentially and the people that you're investing in and have invested in. And I think it's so interesting because I would want to know, what would your 13-year-old self, what would your 13-year-old self would have said was like the biggest thing or the biggest like source of joy at that time? It's a big question.
13 years old. What would I
Okay.
have said?
Let's say 16-year-old self, because 16 is more of a identity, forming time.
Girls, bro. I'm not gonna try to lie about that one, bro. That's what the 16-year-old, he was active. He was just an excited guy just for girls, 100%. That's all. I couldn't even, because that was the only thing I put all of my energy into. Like when I love basketball, but I was nowhere near as good to even consider. Like in LA, everybody there was really, if they weren't 6'7" already at the age of 16, like so I felt little. So I just knew basketball was not my thing. So I just really focused on girls really at the age of 16. That was me.
Thank you.
I think for me, it was basketball. Like it kept me safe from a lot of things. At 16, I'd started going to a college all the way in Barking and I was living in Peckham. So like all of the stuff that was going on, the Brixton Peckham beef, I would leave my house at 6 a.m. There were no gangsters awake at 6 a.m. And then like I'm staying at school until 8 because I'm practicing with the men's team. So by the time I get back, no one's out. And that basketball was just like it for me.
Right.
Yeah, there were girls and all that stuff, but like I just knew this basketball thing is gonna change my life in some capacity. So I was immersed in it. And yeah, it was that.
I think for me, where you said at 13, I think I had just finished. No, yeah. So yeah, 11. When you're 11 years old, you finish. So I finished primary school, Gloucester Primary School. Went from Gloucester Primary School, went to Pimlico, and then from there, transitioning over to going to school in Peckham to going to school in sort of Victoria with different people, no uniform, and so it was a bit of a time where I had to remake friends. Like the friends that I'm used to from Peckham were different to the Victoria kids, and then from there, I think. At the age of 13, well, you said 16 now, right? So the age of 16, leaving Pimlico, I think it was more trying to stay away from the wrong friends, but at the same time, when I was with the wrong friends or with girls, like stuff happening to my car.
Oh yeah.
You shouldn't have a car at 16.
So
like stuff happening, So I think at the time of 16, 17, I was trying to stay focused, but at the same time. Luckily, we had our older sister to guide me to say, look, this is what happened to her. So at the time of 16, I was trying to stay on a good path. But we had our mum taking us to church. I had to be in church. She would say to me, at least stay for the sermon before you dip.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, but then, so 16, 17, that was a time where, it was just trying to stay focused, like what you said as well, at that age. So, that was where I was at. And that was my main focus.
Yeah.
At that age.
And actually, I like. I'm probably going to ask again another question. I like how you've highlighted that over the years that there's these like key checkpoints, like 13 when you kind of like transitioning from primary school to secondary school, college, transitioning from college from 16 to 18, kind of transitioning. What would your 21-year-old self, what would success or like joy or like what would it look like for your 21-year-old self? Yeah, if you're gonna
I mean,
answer.
so I've got a. Am I allowed to say people's names?
If you want to.
So there's a guy called Derek that lives
Yeah.
on our estate, and when we were growing up, he was like our older brother. So Jeff's older brother.
Yeah.
And he used to make like when we would be playing football in the streets, like just playing football or whatever. And then he'll be like, "Don't worry, guys. Soon I'm gonna drive past in my Benz and splash the puddle and get you wet." And then them little comments there be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get a Benz too." Like so with that, those little comments for me at the age of 21 sort of pushed me. It's like actually, no, I can do better. And a few of my friends also, they one of my friends called James, he sort of flashed his driver's license. Oh, by the way, I got my learner's driver's license. And I was looking at myself like, I want to get one too. Like, why can't I? So seeing other people around me, seeing where they were going, and what they've said also helped me sort of at that age of 21 drive to, but at the same time, I was also working. I think I got a job at Odeon Cinema. I got fired before I even got my first pay. So, I think then, I think at that age, I was striving to try and do something, but at the same time, seeing what's out there, seeing what people are doing.
Right.
That was weird.
So you had a whip before a license. Like 5 years before.
No, just say no comment. Just say no comment. Don't incriminate.
Bro, that was me too. I'm just double backing to be like, Rod, that wasn't only me. Okay.
So yeah, that was me at 71.
Definitely a statute of limitation. For me at 21, the question you asked was like, what would have? Can you rephrase?
What would have been your idea of success at that time, or what was bringing you joy at that time?
The idea of success for me at that time would have been freedom, because I didn't have none. Like I'm raised by a Nigerian mother, like single mother essentially. My older sister's like, God bless her soul. She's like goody two shoes. She's a lawyer. So from day she was doing everything right. So for me, I went to uni. My mother wanted me to be a doctor, but I didn't want to be a doctor. But I had no autonomy over myself. So for me, at the age of 21, like somebody saying, bro, you could do whatever you want. Like, what do you actually want? Like, that would have been what gave me joy. For me to just sit there and think, actually, what do I want to do? You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm academically smart, but do I want to be a doctor? Do I even want to go uni? Like, I didn't have any of those kind of internal dialogues, nor did I even have a verbal dialogue out loud with anybody that were able to kind of give me a space to consider what was true to me. So that 21-year-old version of myself was in a cage. And he didn't know how painful that was, because my father wasn't around, and then my mother was doing her best. So I couldn't really show my anger towards her, because I was like, you're trying, but I'm suffering. You know what I mean? So that's who that 21-year-old was, definitely in a cage. So he would have dreamed of freedom for sure.
Okay.
I think interestingly for me, 21 was quite a mature period in my life. I started regretting after 21.
Right.
So like 21, I was with my now wife, girlfriend at the time. We was in our first relationship.
Right.
So if you'd asked me at 21 what brought me joy, it would have been her. It would have been going out with friends. It would have been holidays. But I think over time, I got better at what I did for a living. A lot more people, we spoke about friends resurging from the past. A lot of people started popping back up in my life, and that got to my head by the time I hit 24, 25. So 21 is very similar to what I have now.
Right, okay.
Maybe 12 kids as opposed to 2.
Yeah.
That changed. As soon as I had the 1, I said, yeah, we're going to stop at 2, and that's it. But yeah, I think 21, I was quite mature because I was in uni, I had a lot of structure, I was still playing basketball.
Right.
But once I left uni, that's when I started spiraling. Not crazy, but
right.
started getting a bit too big for my boots. So, yeah.
I want to do 2 more checkpoints. Because people say, you hit your prefrontal cortex develops properly at 25. And so I want to know, at 25, 26, what would that look like? What was the idea of success at 25?
I guess I'll go this as a start. For me, at that point, I dropped out of university. My idea of success at that point was being an artist. So like looking at people and thinking, that was the point when the cogs were already just aligning, where I was thinking, people can actually make a living from doing something that they actually enjoy. At this point, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but to me, at that point, success was like, oh, okay, cool. I also was in a relationship at the time. Both her parents were doctors, so the pressure was heavy. It was like, you dropped out of university. How are you going to feed my daughter? I was like, geez. But so that was still like trapping me in a little bit. But at that point, I'd already kind of picked up this rebel, radical energy where I was like, you know what? If that means I'm going to just end this relationship with this person so that I can just really have the freedom to just dream and think about it. So that's who the 25-year-old version of myself was looking to, was like people that were starting their own thing or people that were making it as like an artist in some sort of way, shape, or form. So yeah.
Okay.
I think me at 25, I wanted my wife or girlfriend. So I just wanted as much money as I could have.
Right.
I just started my business, so I wanted it to be it didn't have the same model it has now. So I just wanted as much income as possible for it. Started my PhD, so I was like, I'm going to be a doctor from the ends, this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
And women as well, like, you know, you meet a lot of women, girls at the time that you go out, you're going to clubs and you're telling them you're doing X, Y, and Z, and they're wowed away by it, but it's very shallow and it's surface level. So at the time, that was what success was, having as much of everything as possible. But then as you get older, you realize like that's not sustainable.
Right.
Like I don't even want to be a billionaire anymore.
Right,
I used to, but like I don't want that much money.
Right.
Because I wouldn't know where to start, and I don't want everyone coming to ask me for money.
Right.
I'd rather just be in my little
Right.
tax bracket and just as long as I can afford the things that I love to do with my family,
Right.
I'm good. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, at the age of like 25, 24, I think I'd been about since 16. Let's leave it at that. So at the time of like 25, 24, in my day, you know, the Blackberries.
Yeah.
So it would be like you would go out, you chirps a girl, get the BB, put in work on the BB for a couple of weeks.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Go to cinema, beat about eventually.
Wow.
And then the cycle will start again. And you're just like, you're chirpsing and doing that for like 8-9 years of chirpsing, and I'm tired, man.
Right.
Tired. I don't know. We'll settle down. So at the age of 24, 25, I wasn't like chirpsing girls to say, "Oh, are you good enough to be my wife?" I was just like tired of the game. So I was just like, when I found my missus, like, you know, when I saw her, it was different to how I met the other girls, and she knows the story. I'm about to make her head big, but she knows the story about how I saw her in a different light, and I just started speaking to her, and from there. So I think at the age of 24, 25, I was ready to just chill. You know, I was tired of the game, and we're ready to start. Whereas some of my friends, they started late, drinking, going to clubs. They started at 24, so they're still going through it now.
Right.
They're in the club.
Arrested you.
So yeah. So that's that was where I was at 24, 25.
Okay. And then I guess, 'cause I know obviously everyone's at different ages and stuff, but I guess like that 30 plus era, 30 plus era, or kind of like getting into kind of not the final form, but the kind of like the version of yourself where you are at now. You guys have already shared, no, you haven't shared your idea of success now, but yeah, what would be your idea of success at present now?
So who wants to take?
I can go first.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Without sounding like that cheesy, but I think how I live my life now, like I wouldn't trade it. There's a few relationships that I don't have anymore that I think would be great to have, but outside of that, I'm not. There's nothing I'm yearning for. Like, you know, my two children are amazing. I'm my son's PE teacher. Like my company has a contract with his preschool. So every Wednesday I'm getting paid to teach my son PE. There's stuff like that. There's so many opportunities like that in my life where I'm just like, I coach my little brother. Like, I hope he doesn't listen to this. He drives me absolutely mental. But there's times where I'm on the sideline looking at him like, I started this basketball program for him and I'm coaching him. My dad, like, he just had knee surgery. I've got a flexible enough schedule to take him to hospital and take him home and have really, like, because he can't move, have really good sit downs with him for like 2-3 hours about his life. I'm learning things about my dad that he hid from me to protect me. But now in adulthood, I'm ready to hear it. And it's like, wow. So yeah, I think success is what it is now. Like there's nothing I can't do, but I'm always striving for more.
Right.
So yeah,
It's beautiful, man. I mean, definitely echo Louis' point. I think for me, success is freedom and happiness. Like the idea that you can conceive something and bring it to life. Like, I live in London and LA. Like, I don't know anybody that's done that in my kind of family circles where it's like, oh, you pick one, you live here and you make a life here. It's like, why do I have to? I don't like London 24/7. It's great. It's wet. You know what I mean? But then I like what I can create for myself in LA. And I don't just go there and just have luxury. I still do the work that I care about. So for me, like, if somebody told me that you can create what you imagine and do it without compromising anything, I would have said, get out of here. That's not doable. So for me, success is the ability to like create your own life how you want it. Like if I want to go on a holiday, I don't got to wait till like this school holiday to go. Like I can book a time. I just need to move my schedule around to do the things that I love. And like you said, like there was a stage in my life where I thought being a millionaire and being a billionaire is the aspiration. But it's like right now, like I don't know what billionaires feel like or what they feel like, but to have what I have in terms of freedom of my time and to be able to see something that I want to create for myself and say, you know what, I can do it and I'm gonna do it. And whatever that means, whether it's me financially putting money towards something or actually creating time to do something, like you said, spending time with my mother, spending time with my little sister, whoever it is that I choose to kind of give my energy and time to, I can create the time, like, and actually do it and not feel like I'm sacrificing anything. So for me, definitely freedom of time is like what success looks like to me right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I think just to double back on what you both said around when you were younger, the money, the billionaire, 20, 21, 25, yeah, I needed to get a house. I needed to get a car. I needed money. And I think now I'm, however old I am, for the kids that are watching at home, I've got the car, got the house, and it's like now, if what is success? And actually, I had a conversation in our church group a few weeks ago. And they were like, what do you guys see as success? And I actually said, what I saw as success when I was younger, I kind of have that now. And so, what's next for me? I'm kind of lost. And so they sort of looked at, if you looked at a company, and the company said, what is, how companies have normally got a moral of what they stand behind, or they're, and so I started looking at, family, wife and kids, health as well, and giving back to the church, giving back to the community as my new goal, as my new success. Because I think at the time, yes, I had to strive to get that money, but you kind of missed the journey of striving to success. If you imagine a train, you're trying to get a train from London to Russia, you miss all of those nice stops in between. And that is success, of having that view of what you've experienced. So I think from now on, going forward in my life, what I'm trying to do is, like what you said around time, is sit back and just have free time to look at me doing this. This is success, So rather than thinking, when is payday, so I can add,
right,
or so it's just thinking about more about what are you doing to give back, and that's for me more of a success. Like for me, so it's changed my view.
Interesting. I think it's interesting because I think, like you said, like the goalpost, I think, for success is constantly changing, and I think it's a normal thing, it's a natural thing that I think as you mature and get older, it does constantly change. But then I think there's also kind of like, as you've highlighted, there is also kind of like a rat race where, especially in this kind of like area of the world that we're in, where we're constantly, the goalpost feels like it's constantly moving, but not by our own design. And so, I mean, it's speaking to kind of like, I'm around the kind of like the 30 age bracket. And I think speaking to people that are, 25 upwards, but then also kind of like 30 plus, especially come from the creative industry, I feel like there's a lot of people, men especially, that feel like they're never doing enough to be considered successful. And so I wanted to know, is that something that you guys have felt along the journey or feel? And if so, yeah, what do you think is behind that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that. I'll say probably around 27, 28, because I had friends that, like, they did the kind of you know, the socialized route of a man, which is like you go out of university, you find a wife, you get a mortgage, you get a car, you get kids. So they hit that like 26, 27. So remembering at 26, I dropped out of university. So them men are already then started their life at that point, right? They've had wives, and I was just looking at, wow, I'm here back on my mom's couch. And this brother's inviting me to his wedding and to his housewoman, not flat woman, you know, housewoman. You know, so at this point, I was just looking at myself like, man, like you're a failure. Like, why you dropping out of uni? I came out of that relationship where her parents were like both like academic professors and high in NHS type of people. And I was thinking, man, you had something that was a good thing going. Like that girl was always gonna go out and be like, I don't know, like the head of something. And you let that one go. And now you're here back on your mom's couch because you think you don't want to be a doctor. Like, you dumb. You know, so I was having that kind of internal dialogue and that self-talk. And so for me, like, that was a really depressive period for me. But it didn't feel like that because I had like express jollof rice most evenings. My mom was just sorting me out and that. So, you know, shout out to moms and that. But really, I was really in a dark place because I didn't really feel like I was achieving what society had told me as a man I should be achieving, which is financial prowess at that stage. Have a woman who's like really there and not dependent on you to be able to put bread on the table, and have a career where you can say, yeah, I got a house and I got this. I had none of that, you know? So for me, I felt very less than. I felt like I didn't even know what like the light at the end of the tunnel was, you know? I just knew that. And the only saving grace for me at the time was I knew that even though I felt like that, is better than what I felt when I was trapped in university and doing something that wasn't for me. So that was the only saving grace, knowing that I can't go back to that. So I just got to look at something forward and just try and figure out what that is, even though right now I feel like I'm in this dark hole. So that's definitely what it was for me. And I think that came from the fact that as a young Black boy, like all the things that inundated me were like music, you know, Black moguls, sports stars, and all these things that really just made me think, raw, like that's the aspiration, to be this guy who like girls are onto you because you have money, you can afford this, you're flying here, you're going there, all of that. So that's what I was inundated with, you know, films, movies, music, all of that. It's like, so there wasn't really like a touch point that showed me an alternative that, oh, you don't have to do all of that to be successful. So yeah, just looking at everything around me and the social media and all types of media that I was kind of consuming, everything reinforced that version of masculinity as an aspiration, and I didn't have it, nor was I even close to it. So I felt like I was less than, for sure.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I think for me, I think I've never ever felt that the people around me were doing better, or I wasn't given enough of myself to help. Because I think because of how our mum was, our mum was quite, she was always giving. So that energy that she had just rubbed off onto me. So I would always be giving my time, or giving, helping out, etc., doing stuff for the church or doing stuff for the friends, or going out. Like I was just that guy, that person. So I was always giving. But I think when I had the kids now, so I've got the four kids, now I feel kind of guilty as a father in terms of sometimes I sit down and I think, am I giving them enough time? Have I read to this one today? Have I read that one? Have I spent enough time solo with that child, taking them somewhere, just me and them to bond over these three? Or are they happy? You know, like, moving out to the sticks versus staying in London, are they bored because there's no neighbors? It's just like them and four walls, you know? So sometimes I think about their wellness in terms of, am I doing enough as a father to keep them engaged, keep them happy, you know? So that's what I think about nowadays. I don't think about, is my friend over there doing a bit more than all of that's gone a while ago. So now it's more around, you know, just trying to do the best for them. So that's me. That's how I think about it.
I think for me, the concept of feeling like you're not doing enough is a flame that never goes out. So I could say I felt like that this morning. I woke up and I'm like, yo, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. But there's been junctures in my life, like, I don't want to speak about certain scenarios because it might make people look bad, but like, as a teenager, I've certainly felt like, yo, I'm not enough for my family because certain things are happening, so I need to go and make magic happen. And then I spoke to you guys at the beginning about coming back from the States from a quote unquote a failed dream. I've never cried for 9 hours straight in my life other than that day because I'm like, yo, I'm going back. Like, I've got nothing. I've actually been told I'm not good enough. And then I think that fire sticks with you. So then as you kind of progress, and like you mentioned with children, like as hard as I work and I make sure my son goes to the best nursery in the area, and there's still times I'm like, yo, have I spent enough time with him? And then the newborn, because he's 100% breastfed, there's not really much dad can do other than burp and change nappies. It's like, yo, is he going to grow up thinking that my eldest is my favorite? And all these things play in your head. And then you just think, you know, my parents, you know, my time with them, it's I'm not getting any more time with them, I'm getting less. Am I spending enough time with them? It's tough because I'm the main breadwinner, so I can't. So all these things play in your head. So I think a lot about adulthood and manhood is about managing that and not letting it overwhelm you. You can always do more.
And you've got like friends trying to call you out as well, like to places.
Yeah. Friends always, especially summertime. Everyone wants you outside.
Yeah, so you've got to like balance that with the kids.
Yeah,
like, I want to go football practice and sit and watch. So these things.
It's interesting. 'Cause I think we've touched a little bit on like the mental health aspect of it, and so like for each of you in those kind of like periods where maybe you haven't felt enough, or you haven't felt worthy, or whatever it is. What have been the things that you've done to either overcome those feelings, or who have been the people in your life that have helped you overcome those feelings, and what do they do? What do they say? If anything, yeah.
I think one of the things I've done, I've cried. But a lot of people won't. I'd never let people see that. So like, on the plane, I've got the blanket over my head and I'm just crying. Like, people can see the blanket moving up and down because I'm obviously crying, but like, it's like, like I'm not gonna show anyone I feel this way.
Right.
And then I'd say, like that summer I went through my first like major breakup. That hit me and I'm crying, but no one's seeing it. Like, I'm locking my door. I'm like, my dad, you don't need to see me like this. But when I come out the other side of this, I'm gonna be a monster. There's other things, like I've lost family members to certain situations, and like I've obviously at the funeral I cried, but outside of that, like if I'm in the room with my wife, girlfriend at the time, I'm walking out, like I don't want you to see me cry, but crying helps because it gets it out. And then talking, I talk to my pops, like we speak for hours every day, because if there's something, he's been through a lot in his life, so I feel like he has a library of solutions and coping mechanisms for anything you could go through. So I'll always speak to him and confide in him, and that usually calms me down.
That's great. Jeb's number.
Yeah, you can have it. He's actually a family therapist, so if you want him, you can have him. So
Sick.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I was just gonna ask you a question. I know that's off script, but who modeled that to you? That crying was, even though you didn't show that to the world per se, but you gave yourself a license to cry, though, which is something that most of us, well, I can't speak for, but most of the men that I know, black men that I know, and black boys that I work with, we don't give ourselves a license to cry. Even if it's in the corner or whatever, like we don't even, like we judge ourselves, like, bro, why are you so moist, bro? Why are you crying?
Yeah, no, I definitely told myself, why am I crying?
Yeah.
Like, I've cried in some questionable places. Like, imagine during a breakup, I'm crying in the disabled toilet. Like, bro, go to work. I'm sat in the disabled toilet for so long, the light turns off because there's no movement. I'm just sitting on the floor crying. I'm like, yo, at some point it's like, bro, go back on your shift. Like, so like, it happens, innit? But I think my dad's never shunned me for crying. My mum's never shunned me for crying. But I think my reason for feeling like I can't cry in front of people, because my dad I feel like he always looks like he's got it together. He's never folded, ever. So for me, it's just like, yo, growing up being competitive, like you're competing with the closest man to you. I'm like, I want to be a better man than my dad in every capacity.
Right.
So if he don't cry in front of people, I'm not crying.
Right.
But now when I ask him, he's talking about he used to cry in his room all the time. Like he just wouldn't cry in front of me because he's got to serve me dinner.
Right.
So yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's just so powerful. And it's just incredible that you were able to give yourself that license to do that. Now I forgot the question, really.
How have you managed to overcome? How have you overcome feelings of like
feeling less than? Yeah. For me, it was really difficult because I didn't really have my father in my life, and eventually, when I came back to the UK, and I kind of had him back in my life, it was way too late at that point. And just the way he is as a person, like he's distant, you know. So for me, I had to find role models and people that were speaking to me, but weren't speaking to me, if that makes sense. So music was a big one for me. So like Tupac and Andre 3000, those two men, they're like my fathers. They just don't know it, you know? Like I remember the first time I listened to like a body of work from Tupac, and also like read his Concrete Rose poetry book. Like I was just like, man, this guy's talking to me, you know, because obviously there was an image of Tupac that was out there that I also believed to just be one-dimensional, this really thugged out guy. But the more I started to understand the depth of his experiences and so many similarities, and so why his rage showed up like that, I was like, man, this is me, bro, like in a different way. So that really gave me almost like these moments where I'll come back from school and I'll just be so pissed off and just vexed and just be like, you know, like, why is this happening to me? Like, why is my father not about? Why don't he ever remember my birthday? Why is my mom always just never about? Like, I had all of that rage. And then I started to just consume his work, Andre 3000, when I got a little older, in terms of just ability to just understand that as a Black man, you can be whatever you want to be. Even if people have something to say about it, that has nothing to do with you. Like, so for me, those things help me build my self-esteem. And I think self-esteem is like the biggest tool to really helping you kind of like break out of this kind of paradigm of patriarchy. Because when you understand that, when you look at yourself in the mirror, that's the only goal that you have. Like, look at yourself and say, yo, bro, are you happy with you? Not what all the men are saying, not what they're rating you for, not what they're spudding you for, because that's going to go away. There's guys that, you know, when I was in high school, or, you know, people used to rate those guys. Now, when I see some of them, I'm just like, bro, I have compassion for you. But I remember you were the guy. I used to think, raw, if I could be a quarter of what this guy is right now. Now I look at him, I'm just thinking, man, it's like, so for me, like those things help me build my self-esteem. And I grew up in the church, and I have a different relationship with like Christianity now. But that gave me a foundation of faith. Just knowing that, you know, like something might not look good right now. As long as you trust the process, you're really true to yourself, like what's going to happen will shock you in the long term. So that really also kind of led me in that way. So that's something I really am grateful for, that I had that foundation, that even when things didn't look likely, I just trusted in that, and trusted that, you know, as long as I followed my heart, I followed things that brought me joy, that I would eventually get to a place where, you know, I would be quite at peace with what my life is. And, you know, here I am, you know, so I'm very grateful for those things.
Yeah.
So I think for me, in terms of places where I've been down, I'll take you through my life, parts that you don't know.
Okay.
So obviously started off at Gloucester Grove, where I was telling you guys, Gloucester Grove Nursery. And I was bad, like bad in the nursery. My mum was like, you know, so it was stressing out mum. And then I moved to Snowfields and Bermondsey, bad there as well. So they put me on report, and then moved to Gloucester Primary School, bad there. And then I met Mrs. Uwalaka. So nothing to you guys, but people that went to Gloucester Grove know Mrs. Uwalaka. She's a Black Nigerian woman, and she was just, she would beat me there in class. So that straightened me up. That was like, she was one of my first mentors to be like, actually, I need to be good, because Miss Uwalaka is gonna tear my shit up. And so from there, left primary school. And then I think when I was in secondary school, there was lots of ups and downs. But I think the next biggest role model was Bimpe, our older sister. And that was in a place where I was getting into a lot of madness, things getting scratched up, cars getting smashed, lots of fights in the area, and she was kind of like, you don't need your friends, go and find new ones, cut them off. And so she was my role model in order for me to grow into another beast in terms of relying on friends. Then she taught me how to be yourself and be your own leader. And then before you know it, look behind you and you've got people following you, asking you, oh, how did you buy that house? Or how did you get that car? What is it that you're doing? Like, so from there, that helped me with that mental state of, that's where I kind of turned into that rebel that people know me today in terms of, I don't give a crap. Like I'm like when I bought a Hummer, a Hummer H2.
Transformers.
And people were like, why are you buying a Hummer? Because I want to. You know, I was just like, you haven't got no family, you ain't got no kids. At the time when I had another car, and I was just like, I'm not here to please people. I'm here to enjoy life. And so that helped me with my mental state, just not to listen to people. And, you know, and then when it came to around 25, 26, when I was married and meeting someone, I needed a new mentor because I was like, how is this marriage going to work? And so there was a guy from America that came over to the UK to work. And at the time, we were just about to buy a house. And so I was working at the same workplace as this American guy. 9 weeks later, I got made redundant. So I, you know, signed the line to the mortgage to posted the letter to the bank to say, yeah, we want to buy this house. As I came back from the post office, sat down in my seat at work, they were like, yeah, come to a meeting room. You and about 200 other people are redundant. And I was like, I was low there. So I was like, this don't happen to me. This happens to people on the news. It's like it doesn't happen to me. So I was like, is this real? So I came home distressed. He allowed me to get like a bit more strategy and redundancy pay. And then he just kind of gave me marriage advice. And then from there, he was just like, as long as you and your partner are going in the same direction, that marriage will work. But if you was one's trying to do this, make it in this model, and you're trying to do that, and it's just like there's no coherence, then so you need to be going and saying. So that allowed me to say to my wife, look, been made redundant, you know, there's no money in the bank, mortgage is coming out next month. Like, go and find a job. So I just went out, got a job within the week of being made redundant, which I was earning, I think, 3 or 4 times more than the job I was on anyway. And I was just like, wow, you know, that's one of the best advices that I got from that mentor. So I think similar to your story where you had music and other people to mentor you, I think finding a mentor or someone that is doing what you want to do, or sometimes people just come into your life and they'll just give you advice and walk off. That would be it. I think that's the best piece for me to get me out of that mental low, is to see what someone else is doing and then just grabbing it.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think you guys have in some way touched on a mental form. And I think I think that's probably what I think is lacking in today's society, especially like where, I don't know, do kids still play out on ends? I just wonder, like, where is the pipeline for young men, especially young black men?
I think a lot of mentors nowadays, for me, that's what I can see, they'll probably be online on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they'll peeps like I Show Speed. They'll see that guy, or they'll see
Aaron, whatever his name is, Ashton Hall, bro.
Yeah, the guy sprinting.
Yeah, it's like realistic morning routines and that. It's like,
or like what you said in the beginning with
Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
It's online now. So it's like, you know, because the kids get iPads at the age of 2. And so my 3-year-old can navigate an iPad better than granddad, you know? So it's like, you know, you got to be careful what they watch. My kids right now, their mentors, probably Miss Rachel on YouTube. So it's like, you just got to be careful.
Yeah.
Right. I do think there are some real life mentors. Like, obviously, you're deep in this world of mentorship. Like, there's thousands of boys that, and I'm sure not just boys, right?
Girls as well.
Right,
yeah.
right. That you know, you create that safe, positive role model. So I know a lot of incredible men. Mentivity are doing amazing stuff. You know, like there's a lot of men that are doing stuff, but we're competing against what you're talking about. you know, like they don't know Ashton Hall, but they look at that guy's life and they think, raw. That guy's pushing whatever whips he's pushing. He's living in a place where he claps and the thing opens up. He's like, raw, okay. And then look at Andrew Tate, like you said, nice cars, all these things. It's like, we are everyday guys. Like some of the boys I work with, they see me at Borough Station. You know what I mean? They say, oh, so you don't drive? I'm like, no, I don't drive. They're like, oh, okay. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but they will go online and see a guy that has a car that's, you know, Bugatti Veyron and all these things, and they think, raw, that's what I'm aiming for, you know? And it's like, actually, and that's why, you know, for me, one of the things that really we focus a lot on is really trying to demystify that world too. You know, because actually in our program, we look at like balance sheets of like, you know, like we have a week on money and we talk about, okay, let's break down how much this person earns versus how much comes out of their bank account every month. And I actually think, why do you think he's taking this fight? He's already retired. He's come back to take another fight. Why? Do you think it's because he wants to fight again? It's because he needs to be able to keep up with a lifestyle that you're looking at, thinking that lifestyle is lit. But his bills are up to here, bro. That's why he's coming out when he's 66 trying to do a fight. You know what I mean? So like really helping them demystify these things to understand that world is, a lot of it is a facade.
I do that with my son.
Right.
In my car, he'll be like, this is my 10-year-old. He'll be like, what did you want to be when you were younger? And I broke it down to him. I went through the doctor, the traditional Nigerian, the doctor, police officer, chef, because that's all we saw.
Right.
And then I said to him, now the money is in banking, archery, you know, investment banking. So I'll break that down to him. And I say to him, yeah, you could be a footballer, because I'm going to be either a footballer or, yeah, you be a footballer if you want. But like, if you don't make it, what are you going to do at 17? And, you know, so what you said about demystifying it, that's something that I didn't have as when I was young from anyone, you know, so that's key. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
I think to add on to both of what you're saying as well, I think like the role models are here, and like you said, you're not only competing with the internet, but you're competing with some of the people that are in these children's communities.
Right, true.
So like, you know, I drive a Ford Focus. You might see the guy that runs the best line in the end drive a Range Rover, and you're gonna look at that and think that he's living a better life than me.
Facts.
So whilst what I've come to realize over time, like being involved in mentoring, is if you go in too gung-ho and try and demystify it too early, they start looking at you as a hater. So a lot of what I try to do, whether it be like, I mean, my social media channel is just me posting about what I love, but for a lot of that, they're inspired by it. And I think it's normal. So like you might see me go on a flight to Italy and it's like, okay, cool. Hey Lou, where did you go? Why did you go there? And I'm very transparent with the young people I work with, young men and young women. Young men from the perspective of when we look at like healthy relationships, and Elsie, I know you do loads of great work in this stuff, but like this is how women should be treated. Like if you really want a wife, this is what the setup should. I mean, not every woman wants the same setup, but this is near enough what it should look like. Like safety should be like at the epicenter of everything. And then for the young girls I work with, it's kind of setting the tone for male relationships in their life. Not necessarily like people that they're going to marry, but just even coaches.
Right.
These are the boundaries that you should have set. I shouldn't be messaging you at certain times. I should be liaising directly with your parent. Like showing them what professionalism looks like. So you remember at 5, 10, 11, whatever, however old you are, you know what? Coach Lewis always said this is what a professional coach is. And this coach, like you're able to whistleblow. Right. Because I think that's an issue for a lot of young girls. Like
100%.
they grow up and they don't know what's appropriate and what's not. So yeah, I think it's competing with the internet, competing with local kind of people that obviously showcase a more luxurious life, but not being too gung-ho with it. Because if you are, you lose them.
100%. I mean, complete agreement with that for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think as well, like apart from some like the traditional mentors, like, you know, a teacher or a uncle or whatever, or, do you know what I mean? Someone, I think also we also often forget about like peer mentors and how oftentimes, like you guys have mentioned, like we look at the people around us as essentially like peer mentors that, you know, are constantly trying to get one up over to try and elevate to this new level of success and stuff. And so it'd be interesting to kind of like think about for you guys some of the male relationships that you've had and the male friendships that you've had over the years, and around that kind of like, let's say, adolescent period, what were the key bonds of those male relationships versus what you cherish now in male friendships?
I mean, for me, I was a shy kid. So I didn't really have, like, I had some male cousins, which we played basketball together and stuff like that. But I got to a stage, at rebel age 16, my mom brought me back I was in Nigeria. Then I had my mom's cousin, like, I don't even know if he's alive, to be fair. But he definitely put me to work in a different way because he saw that rage that I had. And I started to steal, rob, and do stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that's me right there. You know what I mean? So at that point, I didn't have any positive like peers nor anybody that was like, oh, okay, cool, this person is showing me a positive way. I just had people that, I guess what I know now to be grooming, you know what I mean? Because I was groomed into that world because I was younger. Like my punishments would be less and, you know, all of that stuff. But I was active, doing all those things. And so for me, I didn't really have positive peers until maybe when I got to university and I had a couple friends that, you know, like their parents were like super strict, Caribbean, like you're not allowed to cuss in their household, all of that. And I was just like, wow, okay, that's a different structure. Like you know, that friend of mine, 26, he was a virgin. He was trying to be a virgin while he got married. I was like, raw, like, that's crazy. I'd never met anyone. So like that was like a different like marker for me to be like, raw, you can be a man and like they were my age, you know what I mean? And just be like, so it's not just like some random old guy that's like from the dark ages. Like this is my peer, you know? And so I was like, okay, cool. That's like a different way of living and I could see it tangibly. And then I think, you know, fast forward to now, like what the vision of like, I guess what pair or I guess aspirations or people that I guess maybe what I look for in friendships now, because I had to get rid of so many of those so-called friends because I had people that we only linked up because we would wingman each other in the clubs or we would go festivals together and we'd be like, yeah, come, let's go. Like those were my guys in that way. But when I realized that really what I needed was for them to check in on me and say, bro, like, what's been going on? Like, what's up with the work? Like, you're still back at your mom's? Like, how's that going? Like, I didn't have none of that with those guys. But like, every time there was a motive, I was out. And those guys were there. You know what I mean? There's like a sneaker drop. It was like, come on. They text me. It's like, come, let's go pull out a tent outside Nighttown. Like, those were my guys, you know? Right? But then I realized I needed so much more from my friendships. So that only came like in the late 30s that I realized that I've not had the license to cry. And when I did, I couldn't tell any of those guys that I did those things with, right? So I was like, actually, what that's telling me is I need to just create a different circle of safety. And that meant that I didn't have many male friendships for many years. Only in the last year or two, I've really had 2 male friends where the threshold of our relationship is based on emotional vulnerability. Like they will call me and cry and tell me some of their kind of dark stories and things that really brought them so much sorrow and sadness and depression. And like we would cry to each other. We would talk to each other about things that make us cry and sad. And like, it's only until that point that I'm like, wow, these are really what friendships could really look like. And black male ones too. And since then, I also really been inserting myself in like black male wellness circles of just like black men coming together and just being honest and open and just really journaling and talking about, you know, the things that the world doesn't allow us to talk about, which we also internalize, you know, because that's basically how a lot of us have been socialized. You know, the fact that, you know, I was reading something, one of my favorite books by Bell Hooks, and the book is called The Will to Change. And this book speaks about like one of the biggest violence that patriarchy teaches men is not against women. The first violence is the psychic self-mutilation that happens to us when we have to kill our own emotional needs. And that shit hit me so hard. Every time I think about that, I think, whoa. Yeah. And that's true. So a lot of us men are just walking around dead inside because that's what we needed to do first to buy into this patriarchal world. And from then on, then we just inflict violence on everybody else, because it's easy to inflict violence on others when you've already inflicted violence on yourself. So it's not even that deep. So realizing that, I had to then do the work backwards to really start to heal that little child and just be like, bro, it's okay to cry. And you need to find other men that allow you to know that it's also okay to cry. So that's been it for me.
Thank you.
I think to pick up on something you said around like losing friends, I think that's happened to me over the last few years, because you go through, like I mentioned earlier, my 24s, 25s, you have a lot of enablers around you. And because you're considered one of the best out of a bunch of people that all kind of have had to develop their own moral compasses,
Right.
that in my opinion, all of them are wrong.
Right.
Like, because you come across as the most polished one, people are cool with it.
Right.
And I think at this stage in my life, like I'm 32, but having the 2 children, having a wife, like I'm very much gravitating towards men that take pride in being responsible. Because when I was younger, and it's kind of in line with what girls want. I mean, Elsie, correct me if I'm wrong, early 20s, late teens, the girls love the bad boys. So if you're irresponsible, even if you're not on the streets, you're doing things that, you know, talking to multiple girls or like that is seen as the in thing. That's sexy. But then as you get older, the responsibility, I think because of how women biologically start to develop and naturally they want a more safe environment, they start thinking about starting a family, etc. That's the in thing. And I think as that's happened, my friendship circle, I've noted, we've just all become more responsible, and the kind of conversations are going to our kids' sessions or going to pick them up from nursery. And then when we do go out as friends, we're cracking jokes like secondary school kids, but it's like we still got to make sure we're up in the morning to take care of our responsibility. So I think that's another thing that you kind of got to deal with, like the grief of losing friends because you have to get rid of them. Like I have to cut you off because I can't stand next to you anymore.
Right.
I'm hearing certain things, and even as you grow in notoriety, like some of the things that I do becoming more public in the last few years, I can't be standing next to people that are doing whatever.
Right.
Because then I'm going to be affiliated with you, and I could be affiliated with you in teens, but as a 32-year-old man, I might start losing, start affecting my bottom line, and I can't provide for my kids. Then we have a real problem. So it's like, that's a tough thing over the years where it's just like, I got to get rid of this person. And you might deliberate over that for months until you finally say, like this guy's, or this girl's got to go.
Right.
So,
I think for me, in terms of peer to peer, I think it all started from the ends, like from Toby downstairs to buy a widescreen TV. Mum, we need a widescreen TV. You know, we had channel 1 to 4.
Yeah, literally.
And the TV was so small. I think it was 15-inch at best. And we used to get ripped into, you're a small TV, you can't even see what's on. So I was like, we need, and so we got the TV. Okay, now Jeff gets a new mountain bike. Oh boy. So everyone has to get a new mountain bike. So we were always competing. And then Jeff gets the new Nike 110s, £110. Everyone's got to get trainers. So from a younger age, there was about 4 or 5 of us on the estate. And we were like a close knit, we were like brothers. And so whenever one would get something, we were always trying to challenge ourselves, And then I'm not sure who it was, but I got the first driving license and the first car then. And so then they got into the driver's license. So we were always kind of pushing ourselves to get to that in terms of peer relationship. And then obviously marriage comes. And so there was no competition in terms of marriage, except for, the girl you marry, back then, she had to tick certain boxes, or she couldn't have, like, if she had history, it couldn't be within the circle, it had, so there's all of these things. And then certain people were marrying people within the circle, and it was like, how can you marry her? There was all of this, all this pressure at the time. And so what you will find is that as you grow and break away, your mentor, your peer-to-peer changes. So one of my random peers was someone I was working with, and he was just scrolling through his pictures, showing me his wife and their garden. And I was like, wait, what's that? Scroll back. And he had a pool in his garden. And I'm like, how you got a pool in your house in London? He said, yeah, it's a thing. Like, hey, look, there's my neighbors, there's their pool. And I'm like, people have pools in London, like in there. I want a pool in my house, and so that's that. And that was me. So it's just like I was like, okay, I got to get a pool in my house, and so that happened. And then so I think with me, peer to peer, is like when I see something and someone triggers me, I'm like, how do you get that? And secretly, it's kind of like what Michael Jordan does when he's playing basketball, and someone fouls him, and in his head, Michael Jordan's like, oh, you just cussed my mum. So, so with me, my pairing nowadays, because my friends, I don't see them as much, like you said, because some of them haven't had kids, so I can only hang around with the ones that had kids because we've got something in common. So so nowadays when I see stuff, I'm just like, how you get that, or how so that's my thing now. It's just that's how I manage with my peers.
Thank you. I want to take a quick break because I need to charge my phone. But also just want to let you guys know I have all the food. So
Go on the questions.
So you can't hang out with us single guys no more, because
No.
just because we ain't got no kids, yeah.
No, so I think with me,
I make my boys hold my kids. Like
most of the kids, most of my friends that are single, like my close friends, these are my close friends that are single, I'll still go and chill with them and stuff. But there's the odd ones that just want to go out.
Yeah,
And club.
yeah.
And I'll go out once in a while for your birthday.
Yeah,
But not just because it's Saturday.
yeah, of course, yeah.
That
100%.
because that's just looking for trouble.
100%. Bro. Like, what are you doing out in the streets at that point? Like, what?
that. I mean, is the camera on? that's one of the biggest things. Like, I've lost friends because you want me to be who I was before, and it's like, yo, like, oh, Lou, you're friendly, like yeah, but I'm not doing that anymore.
Exactly, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
sex will get cancelled like that.
Man, my wife's got hands, bro. I'm not. And it's also like I kind of veered away from that. Like I'm not scared of my wife. It's more so I want my sons doing that.
Right.
Like, what if you cheat on your girl and her dad's an Xboxer? Now I'm getting punched up in my 60s because you can't control yourself. Like, it's just you don't want to. It's not worth
That's
it.
true. Wait, that's what I tried to do with my kids. I tried to show them how, because what I was shown when I was growing up, Sunday dinners. So I carried on that tradition.
Nice.
My dad, Elsie's dad, our dad, used to take me out a lot to like places.
Can we start the conversation again?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So I really want to know, because obviously we've spoken about kind of like some of the influences that you guys have had either from males or role models, etc. What are the traditions or the qualities or the things that you want to transfer either to your families or to the young people that you're around?
I'll start. So yeah, so I think growing up, our dad our parents, Sunday dinner, church on Sundays. On the weekends, Dad would take us out to the theatres or to the park or Kew Gardens or like these random places that I just didn't want to go, but yeah, let's go. Sometimes. Or like, look, I remember when he took us to see the fireworks in Blackheath. I was like, fireworks? Because of him, actually, we started using knife and fork in the house. I was like, what are these? Because my mum, Nigerian, it was a spoon.
Yeah.
And then that was it. So yeah, so I think those things there that I was shown, even with our grandparents, I never got any Christmas kind of present like that until grandparents were involved. So learning about grandparents giving gifts and Easter, like we never got Easter eggs until so Easter eggs and all that stuff. So all of that stuff I learned. And so I think with my kids, and not just the good parts, also the hard parts. So with my daughter as well, the 11-year-old, I'm now showing them, yeah, here's your Sunday dinner, here's your Easter, here's the good stuff. But now the hard part, right? If you want that new dress or that new shop, that thing that you got to do some chores. So I also try to enground into them hardship. And like, I don't know how you're going to edit this, but we've got a belt hanging. We've got a belt hanging in the house for no reason at all. Just put it that way.
Just because.
So they know what's up. If so yeah, you can edit that bit how you want, but like that's the truth. You gotta keep the kids in line. So I pass down them everything. Jebediah 2 days ago had his hands up for causing trouble. So it's like I think I passed down the love, the tradition. Christmas, family time, house parties. Up until the age of 10, they have their little house parties, so they have their pictures. At the same time, I also pass down like don't waste the milk. Finish your breakfast. Like, oh, you're gonna eat that for dinner if you don't eat it now. So it's like everything that I got given to me is straight to them, like unfiltered.
I mean, I'm gonna let you go because I don't have no kids. I'm gonna talk about mine.
I think there's two main things. One of them is responsibility. So my parents split up when I was 2. And from what I can remember, I went with my dad first. And he's never run from that responsibility. Child support wasn't a thing. It's always been split custody. And he's never, ever run from the responsibility of being my dad. In mistakes, in anything I do. And I think that responsibility is something I've passed down, certainly to my 3-year-old, because he's an older brother now. And a lot of what I teach him about him, even when I leave the house now, it's like, yo, mummy's still the adult, but you protect your mum and you protect your little brother. When I get back, you hand the baton over to me. And I think that's important. And as he gets older, the responsibility of really thinking about what you do before you do it and how it's going to impact people. So, you might want to partake in a certain act and you might look at that situation in the tunnel vision and think, this is going to be great for me. But then how does it impact the people around you? And that's something I've got better at, but I've always been cognizant of. And then the other one is pressure. Like, I can't protect you from the pressure. I can't, like that old saying, pressure bursts pipes so it makes diamonds. Like, you're going to have pressure. And it gets worse. Because firstly, you're going to have pressure of being my son. And people are going to, like I did, oh, you're Lewis's son. People already know who he is. So that's going to be pressure. Then you're going to, God willing, you're going to meet someone. And you're going to take that relationship seriously. A portion of that person's happiness is in your hands and in your actions. That's additional pressure. Don't get me started on the pressure of having children. That's a whole nother ball game. And you have to get comfortable with it. Like, I'm sure you detest this. It's not easy sometimes, but there's times you sit in your car before you get in the house or you go to work and you're like, yo, life is cooking me right now. But you know what? Like, it's on me and I don't mind. And I think I got that from sport. I think I got that from playing in big games and understanding, we're down 5 with 10 seconds left. But it is what it is. Like, if I'm going to gamble on anyone, I'll gamble on me. And I think those two things are what I'm definitely going to pass down to my sons.
That's great. I guess, I don't have no children of my own. But what I realized, because I always say that, I say I don't have children. A lot of people around me always remind me, man, you got about 3,000 children.
Yeah, literally.
And like in a weird way, it's true, because like 2 years ago, one of the boys in my program got murdered outside of his school. And that's when I really knew that I love all these boys that I work with. Like, that shit hit me like it was my son. I was crying for days, right? So I guess I have children. But the thing for me, when I think about it is, the reason why I created this program is I created what I didn't have when I was 13 years old, and I needed a safe space. For me, because I work with boys. We have a girls program that started in September, but one of the biggest things I want to pass down to boys is it's okay to be vulnerable. To really, really, and I think what we're seeing now in our society is this kind of like effect, and this like it's coming to a head now where boys are just like, they're so angry, but they don't have any outlet. And that's why women get the brunt of it, because like they're the closest thing to men in those moments where they want to be vulnerable and they just really attack the people that are closest to them. So for me, it's like early on, just encourage them to be like, you know what? And validate them. And that's the thing I feel like is the biggest issues. Like, I go into schools and teachers give me the kids that they say are the worst possible. Like, this kid, he's going to get kicked out today. Like, he's already on the roads. And he comes into the session and he's just wanting to crash. I'm like, you know what? You're right. That teacher's a dickhead. And all of a sudden he's just like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, and he's like, yeah, she's a dickhead, innit? And I'm just like, yeah, cool. And I'm like, okay, so tell me how you're feeling about that. It's like, yeah, man, she just tried to play me for a mug. And I'm just like, actually, you know what? She shouldn't speak to you like that in front of people. And all of a sudden, all his armor is gone. And he's just like, okay, this person actually sees me. And at the same time, I'm like, well, actually, but you rude to her as well, though. And he's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, she just pissed me off. But yeah, I shouldn't really say that. So I shouldn't cuss her out like that. And I'm like, cool. So, and that way, you're able to validate the emotion, let him know actually your emotions are valid. But how you navigate your emotions, you have responsibility over that. But nobody validates boys' emotions. Everybody just makes you think, well, you shouldn't crash out. You shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't bang this person out. But actually, sometimes people are dickheads. But actually, what do we do that doesn't jeopardize the things that we love? Right. And that's where I think that missing point is there. So for me, it's really about trying to empower boys to know that their emotions are valid and that they are okay to just cry. They're okay to, look weak in front of their friends, because those are the same friends that really when things really hit the fan, they ain't there. Like, I've spent years working in prison, in Felton particularly. I did a lot of years working with young boys there. There's a lot of them in there that are doing stretches of 15. None of their boys come see them. It's their mothers and their girlfriends. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, these boys are here trying to impress because you don't want them to see that you're weak. At the end of the day, when you really do whatever it is that you think you need to do to impress them and you go away on a long bird, they ain't there. So really and truly, the people that are all gonna be there, think about them. And how do you speak to them honestly about the emotions you're feeling? And how do you really encourage each other as friends to really be honest emotionally? So I think that's really the biggest thing I think I would like to pass on to boys, because, a lot of the kind of like responsibility and be strong and all that stuff is like, it's a shoo-in. Everybody puts that on boys, which is cool. I have a different theory about that in terms of like, but I feel like the other side is not really done. And that's why I think we have a crisis in terms of the way boys and masculinity is shaped up, because they don't have that space to be that way. I've never seen my father cry. You know what I mean? And I've never seen my father really like validate my emotions ever, And when I think about the boys that I work with, I'm probably, myself and my team are probably the first people that allow them to feel that way. I know I'm going on, but yesterday I have as part of our program, this is exercise we do where we get the boys to write what they show the world. So it's like a mask exercise where they show the world something on the outside and who they really are on the back. And this boy wrote on the front, he said, "I'm never bothered about nothing." That's what he said. He shows the world. And on the back, he said, "I hate my parents." It's like, why? I was like, "Raw, that's crazy." I said, "How do you feel about that?" I said, "Nah, I'm not bothered." I said, "You can't say you hate your parents and say you're not bothered." That the emotion of hate is so strong inside of you, but your coping mechanism is to kill the emotion that you feel. Because if you were actually going to let that emotion come alive, you really want to go home and just slap your dad or slap your mom, because that's what you really want to do. Because you hate them so much.
Yeah.
And really for him, it was really about validating the fact that they've definitely wronged you in many ways, and that emotion is valid. But you burying it inside and saying, "Oh, I'm not bothered," it's a lie. And it's gonna come out some way, somehow, someday. So yeah, that's the thing I'm really trying to pass down.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because now it's making me think about my 10-year-old when he's crying. My natural reaction, "Stop crying, man up." Now it's like, actually, maybe I'll put my arm around him and be like,
Can I ask a question though? Because I remember going through a transition from like, I was a mad sensitive little boy. Used to cry all the time. I was very loving, and then secondary school and all the things that happened in secondary school turned me cold. And I probably only just become somewhat affectionate because of my children.
Right.
Do you think we can be vulnerable growing up where we grow up? Because I at 32 don't feel like I'm not vulnerable. Like, you're not gonna. There's so many. That thing you put up the other day about that 8-year-old. That 8-year-old's still in there. No one can get to him. There's no one, like, you're not, because if you do, then everything crumbles. And I just feel like for a lot of the young men I work with, they come up in environments where if you do cry in front of people or you do show vulnerability, it gets taken advantage of. Now, thankfully for a lot of them, I let them know, like, I'm a safe space. Like, I'm not gonna judge you if you cry. Like, but I do kind of coach them around, understand outside is still outside.
Yeah.
And if the wolves see you crying, they're gonna take it as weakness. So that's that. I asked that because are we really still allowed to be?
I mean, it's a really fantastic point, because I think therein lies the challenge, right? Because like, the reality is the reality.
Yeah.
Like, the boys I work with, they still live in environments where their father's like, "Why are you crying for, bro?
Yeah.
Like, you ain't got no bills. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm
No, that's
saying?
funny because
I know you said that before, isn't it?
I've said that. It's bad, but I've definitely said it.
But did you?
Why are you upset? You don't know about cancel tax, bro. Relax.
I hear that. And that's the reality. So, but the point is, yes, it's really unsafe outside to demonstrate that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness for men. But if more of us are doing it, and that's the thing, it's like for most of the boys, like I've cried in a session with the boys before. And that's the first time they've seen a grown man cry. I tell them I'm 41 years old and I can count how many times on my hand I've ever cried. And then I cry in the classroom with them and they like, no. Sometimes they're laughing. And I use that as a teaching moment. And I say, okay, so you're laughing. And I'm not even mad because I say to them, like, when you're uncomfortable, you want to use humor to cover up your uncomfortability because we don't have any other language but humor. And for me, it's like I'm breaking a wall because you've never seen a grown man that you rate. Because a lot of the boys I work with, they look at me and they rate me and they say this and whatever it is. But it's like showing them that now do you rate me less because I just cried in front of you? And do you think of me differently? And they actually realize that actually, I don't rate you less. Like, I actually rate that more. And then all of a sudden, they start to feel more emboldened that even if some of their men them laugh, it just shows you that actually, is that really your men them? And that's what I really empower them to be more intentional about who they surround themselves with. Because that's the problem, because you want ratings from all the guys. But really and truly, maybe you want ratings from one or two guys. And those are the guys that you actually are honest with, guys that speak to you on a real. Because all the other guys, they're joke men. So you don't even want ratings from them. But just because they're the loudest in the class, and you're like, yeah, that guy's rating me. But actually, really and truly, do you care about him rating you?
Yeah. It's good that you're teaching them that at that age, because I learned it around 16, 17, 18 with Bimpe, my older sister. But you teach them at that age is so good. It's so good. Because even, like, I meet people now at work who care about what people think.
Right.
Me? I give a shit.
Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just stop there. Like, yeah, it's good that you're teaching them that at this age. Like, yeah, because if they feel like, oh, this person's gonna do that, or I'm not able to get that job, or I can't apply for this, I can't do that, they just won't get anywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, just move with it. Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you say, man.
And that's the thing, just lastly, it's like, I understand what you're saying, because also, like, this is my retrospective benefit, the hindsight.
Yeah.
Like, the secondary school, bro, like, that was my world. No one could tell me that anything existed outside of school. And so for them, that's their world. Like, if one person's got them on a slip crying on Snap and that's going around.
Yeah, that's
bro,
the worry. Yeah, like
it's like World War III, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, so I understand that too. So I'm not there saying to them, why are you doing that? I understand I fully understand the reality of the world they live in. But I try to show them an example that there is another way as well. And that way is also going to be hard, because certain men are going to laugh at you. Certain men are going to have it on film and send it to the girls and whatever. But what that would do is it will weed out the people you really care about. So that's the hard lesson. But I know that it's a difficult world, because I don't want to be viral in school. I'd rather be viral just on internet than be viral in school. To them, that's 10 million views right there, bro. You know, so I get it too.
Be good to know. So obviously, Jide, you've mentioned that, you know, there's learnings happening in this kind of conversation that we're having now. Like, what would you say for everyone? Like, what are you still unlearning? Or what are you unlearning from maybe the men who raised you, or from the peers that you were raised around? What things are you currently still presently unlearning, if anything?
I have to take that as a hard question. Like, what am I unlearning? As in, like, I thought I knew it, and now I'm seeing it done in a different way. So I'm unlearning what I learned.
Yeah.
And I'm now doing it this way.
Yeah.
I think, so is this with family life or
In general,
just in general? I think
being a man, success, whatever it may be.
I think what I'm now, that's a difficult question, because there's stuff that I've learned and I think it's still the right way. So I'm not really unlearning, because I'm quite strong-minded. It's just like, you should do it this way. Why? Because I've done it
Mhm.
and it works, you know? And so when people say, oh, I'm like, okay, do it your way and see you next year when you realize that way didn't work. So there's a lot of things that I would say that I think is strong-headed. I'm just trying to think of, in terms of unlearning, I think in terms of bringing up with my kids, I'm definitely, because all four of them are menaces. Like one don't eat ketchup, one will eat ketchup, one doesn't like cheese, but will like mac and cheese. So it's like
different type of cheese though. You gotta understand.
it's like, and then this one wants to be a kickboxer, the oldest daughter. So I'm kind of unlearning what I thought I had learned with the first child, with the third and fourth and fifth. You know, with the sorry, just four. Sorry. Okay. So I
yourself
think
in
in
trouble,
that,
bro.
in that area there, I'm just learning how to cope with, like, where you said that you would sit down and talk to the kid about what the teacher did. I have to do that with my 4-year-old. I did it two mornings ago. Sit her down as to why she's arguing with her mum and why them two are beefing. And she was, you see on my social media, you've seen what she's like. So I post my kids on TikTok, the kids and I, and she's just like chest pumping, ready to fight, and I'm just have to sit her down and why are you like this? Whereas the oldest daughter, the 11-year-old, she wouldn't dare. Like, it's different age. So it's like I think that in parenthood, that's what I would say, that I'm definitely, like, just now, you've taught me that, okay, my 10-year-old son that's crying, let me unlearn. So I think in that sense, that's where I haven't actually got a mentor. But believe it or not, in life, if you talk to me about jobs, all that other stuff, I've got people who've done that. But in terms of someone that's got 4 kids, my age, I ain't got no one like that. So I'm still, my friends are coming to me. I say, how did you do it? I'm teaching them, okay, you want to get your son into football, you got to start him at this age. Because with my 10-year-old, we missed that boat. But with this 2-year-old, I know when to get him. So all these things I'm learning, definitely with kids. I'll stop there. But I think, that's kids learning the family life. Even with the missus, it's like, I've never been married before. And I've never been in a long relationship. So my longest relationship before my missus is maybe a year and a half or year, like solid, every day. And so I've never lived with no one either. So I was always living with parents. When we got married, we moved in, boom. And it was just like, oh, toilet seat has to go down, or, or like little things is like, Jeff can't come round. No, Jeff can't come round. Like, this is our house. Before, Jeff just come round to my mum's, would sit, or I'll go down to Jeff's, play Xbox, play GameCube. And so marriage, I also had to unlearn the adolescent me and now learn what is it to be a dad and just sit down and relax, or take them to the park or do kid stuff. And so I had to learn that side of things. You stop there.
I think for me it's a bit deep, but this is the first time in my life where I feel like I'm just wanted, like, my presence. So like me and my wife, like we've had a lot of conversations recently because I'm always working. I'm like, I need to make sure you and the boys have the best life possible. And she said, no, sometimes we just want you home. Like, you don't understand, like, you just being at home. That's the first time I've really, like, heard that in like post 16. So for me, it's like, I have to learn that. I have to learn that, like, being a man in someone's life isn't making sure that like the fridge is full and everything. It's sometimes like my wife just wants me around, and I'm like, bro, you actually, like, I thought I got on your nerves. She's like, no, like, I just want you there. Like, I like you. Like, I said yes. It's not me doing it because I have to. It's doing it because I want to. And I think that's something I'm having to learn, because I've watched my dad always do things for people. And that was the only kind of man. And then obviously mentors that you meet professionally who, again, I'm meeting them professionally. So they're providing opportunities. I've never seen a man just like be asked to be there because his presence is appreciated. So hearing that from my wife, it's like, yo, what? At first, it's just like, you just want me to sit in the front room and watch Netflix with you. Like, I got to go and provide. Like, I got stuff to do. But now I'm starting to realize it. So when she says she misses me, it's like, if I'm away like this past week and I was in Italy, it's like, oh, I miss you. I actually believe it. Whereas before, it was like, no, you just missed that. I can plug you with this person, like not from my wife, but like from other people. It's like, oh, you want me back because you want to go party, like you want me to wingman you, whatever. So now it's like, wow, like you actually just want me there. So cool.
Man, Lewis, what you just shared is so incredible because actually, that's like one of the biggest things that I think a lot of us men never unlearn. Because we don't think we're valuable without all these things that society has told us make us a man, which is money, strength, providing for your house, for your family, have a wife, have a children. If you strip away all these things, who are you?
Yeah.
And most men just don't know what that is because everything about society has told us that you're only a man when you're able to do this. Beat this guy up, be strong, have money on the table, have a wife. And for your wife to be able to reaffirm to you that you as a being, if you were broke today and you never banged Jim anymore, maybe she won't be the happiest about that one. But
No,
like
she would.
Exactly. But you would still be enough. And that's the thing. A lot of boys, a lot of men don't feel like we're enough. That's why we're chasing the next thing. We want to be able to have the next car. We want to have the next mansion. We want to have the next girl. We have to, like, because we think that we're not enough as is. So that's definitely something I've been spending years unlearning in myself, but also like unlearning this idea that there is a right way to be as a man. Because like I'm 41 years old. I don't know if I want to be married. Like, I never thought I could say that out loud. I still can't say it out loud to my mother, though. She like, you're going to find the right person. Trust me. When you find her, then you know. But it's like, I don't know. I've never had the freedom to even just be like, I don't know. Like, it's not a no, it's not a yes. It's just like, I don't know. Because I've always thought me articulating that means that I'm not a true African. Like, I don't want to pass on my seed. I don't want to do all these things. And I think, you know what? Like, the more I tap into like my own purpose, like God gave me this purpose to create this thing that fathers so many boys. Maybe that's my mission. You know, maybe if I have my own child, I can't do that. You know, and like to just sit with that and think there's no right way or wrong way to be a man. And until we are able to really create a space where a lot of us are able to just really feel like we're enough, even if we don't have those things, whatever those things are in many people's eyes. So I think for me, I've been unlearning this idea that there's a right way. Because so many, like a lot of times I really used to fight that and think, nah, it's just because you can find the right person. And that might also be true, which is also a fact. Because I had to come to this place where I was able to accept whatever the reality is, whether it's because of that or maybe just because that's not my portion either. But to also know that happiness lies in the in-between for me. Like whatever it is I'm doing, it's not because I have to aspire to be this thing for me to find happiness. So just unlearning that whatever the models are of what people identify as a successful man, which is a man that has a wife and has children and has a car, it's like unlearning that that's the only way to be a man that's successful, right? Because there's so many ways to do that. And that's something like I've had to be, I'm still unlearning, but that's something I've been on a journey of unlearning for sure. Alongside that idea of just knowing that we're enough as is.
If you would hope for something for the next generation of men to kind of like be raised with, what would that be?
For me, it's pretty simple. That joy is your birthright. That like you can actually have joy and say to people, raw, I'm having joy. Like I work with like 13 to 15 year olds usually. In America, it's up to 18 because high school goes all the way to 18, which is weird. So anyway, so, but like working with like 13, 14 year olds, like I always play like silly games with them. And some of them it's like, I have to, like, I'm jumping on the table being an idiot. And they just say, oh, bro, I can't really do that. I said, what are you talking about, bro? I'm 41 years old. I'm doing cartwheels. I'm running around on the floor. And I just feel like boys are deprived of joy because they think that joy is moist. Imagine that, like a world where you think joy is moist. So for me, like the fact that in the generation that's coming up, if that could be a thing where from a very early age, boys are told that joy is your birthright, you have the right to be joyous even till you die. Because there's a lot of men that I know who are like successful in many ways, but they have no joy in their life because they think as a man, to be able to provide and bring all these things is the joy. I'm like, no, bro, that's not the joy, bro. Like, you really want to be able to do all these other things and be like a child, but you feel like the society would say to you, Agbaya, why are you still here trying to play like a child? You know what I mean? But actually, that's what you really want to do, and nobody gives you the license for that. So that's what I wish that the new generation of boys and men feel like joy is also something that they deserve.
And I think I'll ask is because, I think, I think looking at like where a lot of us have come from and something that we've unlearned, etc. I think it'd be good to kind of like know, if anyone that is listening, like what are the things that, because I think it's thinking about like how can we, as kind of like the elders or the adults now in these spaces, like how are we shaping, because the next generation and how we are by our, conversations or by how we raise our children or by how we, raise other people's children's inadvertently, like how are we raising the next generation, and what is our hope for them? So just added context.
I think for me it's fall in love with something and someone if you can on the way up. Like when I found basketball, like I fell in love with it, and if you lead with love, like it will never lead you astray. Like you might not get to where you want to get to, but the byproduct of me falling in love with basketball is the life you have now. It wasn't the NBA, it was this. So I think falling in love with something, and something I find with a lot of young men is that they're a bit too cool for school. They don't want to show that they're passionate about something.
Right.
You're a passionate illustrator, but you don't want to show the world.
Yeah.
You're, passionate about music, but you don't want to show the world. You're passionate about writing, but you don't want to, not necessarily you have to plaster it everywhere on social media, but you're not willing to walk in that truth because you're worried about, like what we said earlier, about what other people say. But falling in love with something is the most beautiful experience because it teaches you a lot about yourself. And then when you meet someone that you fall, you can kind of apply those same principles in terms of falling in love. Like, I have to be ridiculously committed to this if I want said thing or said relationship to work.
Question though, so you said that when you came back from America, there was that feeling of like, feeling like you'd failed, etc.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that love when you feel like the thing that you're aspiring for, that you do love, may not love you back, or do you know what I mean, or it doesn't go how you want it to go, or do you know what I mean? How did you re-find that love, or?
I don't know everyone's relationship experience, but like I'm sure you've loved someone who hasn't loved you back, and I think that was what that period was for me. I think it was basketball's not ready to, or isn't going to give you what you thought you was going to get from this relationship, but just hold on. And I think that's a relationship that if you hold on to, it's not going to abuse its right. It's just, you just got to stay loyal to it. And maybe basketball's going through a phase right now. And that's kind of how I approached it. It was like, that element of it didn't work, but I'm going to recreate myself with basketball. And I was fortunate enough for you to know Taiwo really well. That's my close friend. He made it. So a big reason why Let's Get Active exists is because I said one day, all right, cool, you're going to make it as a pro. I'm going to be your skills trainer. So I still want to be next to basketball and next to you. Let me provide value. And that's kind of how you maintain the love. You find different pockets of what it is. You might reminisce on old videos, all that kind of stuff like that. That's what keeps it there. But you still ride through that process of being somewhat heartbroken and just getting through it and getting on the other side of still understanding it's not basketball's fault. So
that's beautiful.
Brother?
For me, so the question was in terms of love, what would you pass on to the?
No, as in, like what thing would you want to pass on, or would you want to see in the next generation of
So I think definitely what you've said around doing what you love.
Yeah.
So it's like when, obviously on the come up in the estate, I used to make beats. So I had a couple of songs on Channel U.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
What?
You had to make it to Channel U.
Should have led with that, man.
No, bro.
So I had a few guys who are big now. You know, I don't want to say names because...
Drop it, bro.
But some of them used to come to my house.
Yeah.
You know, famous people now come to my house and just lay down bars and then just be spitting. And I used to record it. And, you know, back in the days, how did you transport music back then? I think it was just by USB. Just plug in those USBs, save it on there, and then So that's how we transported music around. So yes, I used to love music, love that passion. And then after a while, I had to make a decision in terms of my mum was like, not even my mum, it's just the society was just like, are you gonna go uni and study to become this doctor that I was meant to be doing, or are you gonna do this music thing? And I was like, I'm gonna be a doctor because like I didn't have faith.
Yeah.
But if I had stuck to that, I was probably doing like if we had started recording, we probably would have started before
SBTV
around the SBTV times. This I'm talking 05, 06. This is before
Risky Rose and that.
Yeah. We would have been doing that with the guys in the estate, and then before you know it, but I didn't stick with it. So I think if I had stuck with it, I would have been in a whole completely. Because what DJ Khaled is doing right now, where he gets people different and he just slaps it together,
compilation albums,
I would have been doing that because I had the people that I know from 07, 05, 06. Now, where they've blown up, I would have just been like, oh, yo, they would know me from. So they would. I wouldn't have to pay no.
Right.
Jump on the CD. I'm the one that put you on when back in the So it's like now. So what I would say is exactly what you've said in terms of if you love something, do it. You know. But I think it's like I just couldn't take that risk because I knew that if you fell uni, you know, you were chilling. You know, back in those days, anyway, you know, you can't get no job. But now you don't need uni to get a job. You know, you can just make a video on YouTube, blow up, boom, you're done. So it's like I think so now that's what I'll definitely pass on. And I'll try to pass it on to my kids as well. It's just like do what you like. But at the same time, I break it down for my kids real clean. That's like not everyone can be an iShow Speeds YouTuber and get those views and get that paid. Like my sons and my son's friends that want to be gamers. I'm like, okay, go be a gamer. But this is how much a gamer makes. And this is how much time he has to spend online before he gets that money. And so I let them see clearly, you know, how much. Yeah. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, man. Jide, I was just intrigued to know that when you made that decision about music, did you ever go through a mourning phase of post that period? Like, did you feel anything about giving up music to pursue the life you had afterwards?
Yeah. So I was just saying that I'm thinking about, so was it 05, 06, making beats. One or two of my beats made it to Channel U. I was just like, what? And so 07, I had to start uni. I was doing a bit of both. So the guys would come to the house, you know, on the weekends or after uni. And I was thinking to myself, I need to revise here. Like this is medical biochemistry. It's like, like this. I need to read this book by tomorrow, otherwise I'm screwed. And so I was like, guys, got to do uni. And I think I'm glad that I kind of chose that path because with the music path back in 07, you know, first of all, 05, 06 was very hot in terms of beef, like on the streets. And so it's like, I was bringing in people to my house that had aggression to other people who were coming to my house. And so my house was like the hotspot. Like the people would, you know, my house was almost like the safe haven for us to, I'll be like, the guys, none of that in here. Here's make me, you know. And so I would have to book appointments with people so that they can, and all that stuff. So I think stopping all of that, there was a few times where guys would be like, yo, Jide, are you not making beats no more? Can't we not lace, you know, because I would let them record in the house and I would mix it down studio level because I studied music at school in college, in Christ the King, So I studied music at school, so I learned how to use Cubase, you know, or Fruity Loops back then. Whereas people learned in their youth clubs, I learned from an educated white man at college how to mix it clean. I was mixing stuff down, releasing it, putting it on, was it MySpace back then? Putting it on MySpace and all that stuff.
What a time to be alive.
And so people were like, why did you stop? And I was like, nah, I got to do this uni thing. But so it hurt in terms of like showing my kids now that I can play the piano, mouth dropping. My wife's like, you know, luckily my wife met me in a time where I used to play drums at the old our mother's church. So she knows I can play the drums. But I think now stopping all of that, I think it's hurtful because if I had stuck with that, maybe I would have been in a different path. But I'm not regretting it because I'm happy where I am now. But I think where it was kind of like the society putting pressure on me. I wouldn't say my mum, but I knew what my mum would want from me, which was to graduate uni. When I graduated, I remember she screamed "Hallelujah" in the hall. I was just like, okay. So that was all she wanted from me, was just to graduate. She didn't even care about, So I think because I was so naughty. So yeah, I think I had to just make a decision on music or graduation and focus on this, course. So I think, so I just had to drop out music. And by the time I tried to go back to it, but my peers that stuck to it were
already far ahead. Yeah,
like they were making. There's tunes like the Weakest Link rhythm or Wifey rhythm, all of these rhythms that they were spitting back then. Some of my friends made them, produced them, and I was teaching them how to make beats. And now they're gone. There's the guy in our church.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should say his name, but Jide.
Yeah.
He's making beats for
yeah.
I forgot his name now, but yeah, just people
gone clear.
People are gone clear, and I'm happy for them as well. And so that's why where you've said in terms of the question you asked about my kids or anyone around me, I was like, if you love something, stick to it and do it.
And I guess I think probably my final question is, what would you probably say to your 15-year-old self? Like, not, I think it's quite similar to the first question, but I think just if you take a minute, just think about who that child was, what they looked like, what their facial expression was, what emotions were, most present on their heart. Like, what would you say to that younger version of yourself?
For me, I would say go gym. People will know that the 15-year-old me was like this. And so go to the gym, don't come out for about a week. So I think definitely that. And I think definitely enjoy the moment of whatever you're doing, because I think like the 15-year-old me, I remember I was in Croydon at a house party. I don't, the story about how I nearly got axed? You don't know about
vaguely.
Yeah, so I was on the house party, nearly got axed. Wrong circle, wrong friends. Someone pushed over a bike.
Crazy.
Nearly got axed. Or, 16-year-old me on the bus coming back from Lewisham as I went to Christ the King. And they were like scouters waiting at the bus stop to pick people off. And so I was wearing academics back then. It was like the whole tracksuit from Elephant and Castle. I say it proud. So it's like I had the academics on and got on the bus. I got scouted by a guy. He got on the bus. He called his mates. They got on 3 stops further on. So 4 of them got on. 1 mixed race guy, 4 Somalians. Whipped out the knife on me. What you got for me, fam? Went for my leg and I moved I don't know what it was, moved the leg, grabbed his wrist. And I said, yo, I ain't got nothing for you. Then he said, I like this very chain I'm wearing.
Wow.
Like, I like that chain. Let me have it. I said, no, you can't have that chain. My mum gave me that chain. You can't have that chain. So then look back at the boss. The other one now tried to like grab me. So there was 4 of them. I knew that, it was going to get peak because when you're on the bus coming from ghetto, this is exactly when it was Peckham versus, and I'm getting on the 3-4-3 to Peckham. Like, that's stress, man. So anyway, it was hot going to cry in it. So I think then I was just I was living ahead of my time. So I'll tell my 15, 16-year-old self like to slow down and just like chill in the moment and just to not be in the wrong circle. Because nearly getting axed on the bus, getting attacked with a knife, it's just something that you just don't need to be in. Yeah, for me.
Mine is just it's a combination of a lot of things I said so far because the 15-year-old me was really sad and lonely. Like, I don't even remember if I'd had a hug from like, I've had a hug from my sister, I guess. But like, from my mother, my father, I never had a hug. So I think I was really, really sad. But I was a shy kid. So nobody ever knew that. Everybody always thought, he's a sweet boy, he's this. But I really was pained. I never really felt like I had an outlet for my emotions. I never felt like, even though I knew my mother loved me, like, theoretically I knew that. But did I feel it? No, I did not feel it. So I never felt like I was loved. When I got taken from the US to Nigeria, I lived with my grandmother, who was even more of an authoritarian. Like, what are you talking about, a belt?
Yeah.
She had, you know them omoroguds, you know them things?
Yeah.
Wooden spatulas.
Yeah.
Many of those broke on my body, bro.
Man.
Like, so I felt like,
They used to,
yeah. So I felt like, because in their eyes, all that is love. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and I hear it on one end, but like I didn't feel that as love. That was not love to me. So I felt really pained. So to me, that 15-year-old kid, what I would say to him is, bro, you're lovable. You're lovable. Like, you are sensitive, just like you, but
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like I could be sensitive outwardly, because I feel like, yeah, my mother always made me feel like I gotta be the man of the house and all of that. So I feel like I couldn't show that version of myself, but I was inside just really just sad and needing a hug and needing somebody to just always let me know that I'm okay as I am, I'm lovable, all of that. So I feel like, yeah, that's what I'll tell him, that, bro, you're lovable as you are, and there's nothing wrong with having those needs. Needs to be told that you're lovable, needs to feel like, you know, when you're sad, somebody gives you a hug. Like, there's nothing wrong that you have those desires to be shown those emotions. So that's what I would really validate about him, for sure.
Thank you.
I think, to me, at 15, there's two main things. I think, sounds a bit dark, but the worst is yet to come. Like, I didn't know I was gonna go through half the things I ended up going through. Like, I've had to, you know, say goodbye to people in the craziest of ways, and at 15, I didn't know that these are the people I'm just running around with, taking advantage. Like not really thinking that there will come a day where I got to say bye to you too early. But then the other side of it is, it's gonna click for you, and when it does, oh my goodness, life is gonna be really good. Because you don't know that at that age. Like,
Right.
it's a whirlwind of, like I said earlier, that sensitive version to all the way buried under my bed. I'm not on the streets. I wasn't involved like that, but I had been in situations, and because I wasn't in a gang, I didn't have the backup. I don't have older brothers. So for me, it was, if we're fighting, I'm one against however many boys are trying to rush me. But I've still got too much pride in my heart to run. And I think going through that whirlwind whilst trying to make it to the NBA and still knowing what the right thing to do is very difficult. And my dad grew up in Crawley. So anything he said to me about London, I was like, oh, whatever, man. You don't know.
Right.
He had his own struggles, but I didn't listen to him. And there wasn't really a man to say, yo, like, you got something, and when it clicks for you, you're all the way gone clear. So those are the two things, really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, guys. I feel like, even though it's been like basically like 2 hours or something like that, I still feel like there's still so much that we haven't spoken about, like, for example, like bereavements, do you know what I mean? And grief and just there's just so much I think that we often don't speak about, and that I would love to continue to explore with you guys, and just the wider public and wider community. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for kind of like being open, being honest, sharing your stories, sharing your inner thoughts. Because again, like, we don't often have spaces where we really hear men speak and speak about how they feel and speak about what they've been through so openly. So thank you again for being open and for being honest. That's it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy Father's Day as well.
Oh, happy Father's Day to everyone.
Day.
Happy Father's Day. Here's some flowers. Here's some flowers. Here's some flowers. Happy Father's Day.